All right, welcome everybody to another Mortgage Minute. I wanted to briefly introduce Brian. As you all know, please, if you don't know who Brian is, check out his information in the below. But Brian, it's just been a kind of a volatile week, to say the least. So tell us what's going on, and then tell us why we should still be optimistic about this market.
Yeah, it's a good point. So there's a few things that have happened here recently. Mortgage bonds have continued to be pretty volatile just based on anti-inflation measures. We've had for the past few weeks, you and I have spoken about just a little bit of balance with mortgage prices and mortgage bonds and everything else. And the end of last week and early part of this week, things got pretty volatile. So what that means is that rates have ticked up yet again. However, today's a little bit better news with potential Fed increases and stuff. It's a really interesting related, but not enough time to explain it. But the Fed doesn't control mortgage rates, in short. So anybody has questions about that, feel free to call me and I'll explain why. But the good news is that with the potential higher rate hike by the Fed, mortgage bonds have rallied today a little bit. So there'll be a little bit more information to share next week when we do this again. But we have rallied a little bit, so a little bit better improvement today in terms of mortgage prices. And the big news, in my opinion, is that, just based on the shift in real estate market, we've seen a lot of contracts come through recently and a lot less competition for buyers. So it's really been advantageous for home buyers, even with a little bit higher mortgage rates, to be able to get houses under contract. And we're seeing really cool stuff come through where people aren't having to overbid and all of these crazy ideas with appraisal gaps and stuff. So that's the highlight that I've seen here recently.
Well, and that's helpful. So I actually was just recently reminded that in any market, there's always someone that has some advantage. So while those things might shift from one side to the other, meaning sellers versus buyers, to be clear, we are not in a buyer's market. We are still very much in a seller's market. That's determined by the levels of inventory that we have. But that doesn't mean that there can't be advantages for buyers. And in this case, you're saying it's just quite a bit easier to get contracts through.
Yeah. Yep. A lot less competition, which is good. I agree. It's still a seller's market for sure, but it's been much easier for buyers to get houses under contract without having to donate, their firstborn or anything.
That's right. Well, that's tremendous news. I mean, that's what's been happening, and we've had a rough spring. And if you're a buyer, you've been looking for homes. It's been tough to find them. It's been very competitive. And now there's some breathing room. So we see this happen seasonally every year, where summer is actually a better time to buy a home anyway. Now with the reduced amount of competition for buyers, that can be better. For sellers, like we were at the top of the mountain, you're just off the summit. It doesn't mean that things are bad. It doesn't mean that prices aren't still high. We just may be coming down seasonally from the top, and also in kind of in correlation with the levels of demand having changed a little bit.
Yep, agree.
But just an important thing that you mentioned, Brian, is that the Fed meeting today, actually, they're expected to raise rates quite a bit, but it does not mean, it's not a direct correlation to the raise in interest rates as it goes for mortgages.
Correct.
Very good. Anything else that's worth covering this week? You mentioned a couple things we might jump on next week.
Let's wait and see what kind of the reaction to the market is based on the Fed's comments and what they decide to do. We won't know that until late tonight. They usually meet at 11, or they release the data at 11:30 p.m., which is kind of a weird. I don't know. So all we can see now is sort of what the anticipation looks like, and so far the anticipation as far as mortgage prices seem to be favorable to us, which is good news.
Okay, great. Well, there it is, and these things, as we've mentioned several times, change daily, hourly, right? And so we're bringing these updates to you every week. Hope that's helpful. We want you to stay tuned and stay plugged in here for the latest and greatest information related to the mortgage world, and as that coincides with the real estate world as well. So hope you enjoyed this week. And Brian, as always, I really appreciate your time, and look forward to connecting with you next week.
Look forward to it.
All right, we'll see you.
Thanks.